you ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Well, welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on Broadway World or over here on the Broadway Podcast Network, and I'm super excited. Our favorite month of the entire year is June because we get to be a part of the Tribeca Film Festival. It is New York's biggest, most exciting film festival of the entire year, and I'm kind of a nerd for I love a documentary. Like the murder ones on Netflix, the celebrity ones, and I'm an SNL freak. So when I heard that this film was coming out about Andy Kaufman, I had to know everything that there had to be about it. And I'm so excited that we have the filmmaker. The film is called Andy Kaufman Is Me. Oh man, what a fascinating subject. And our guest has done some incredible work. So we're really excited to welcome Clay. Clay, welcome to the Roundtable. You're
Hello.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. You're in New York City. We're filming this on the 6th, and you are about to have your red carpet premiere at Tribeca for this film tonight.
Indeed. Yes. Only a matter of hours.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, listen, we make these films in order for people to have a collective experience it and enjoy it. So I'm excited to put it out into the world.
Clay, firstly, there's a red carpet, so you're going to have your picture taken. You're going to have interview. Are you ready? Do you have you have your New York Tribeca Film Festival ensemble ready to go?
Yes, I've consulted with all of my family. I have an outfit ready to go. I mean, we'll see how that goes.
I hope you look like Mighty Mouse Andy Kaufman on SNL. I want the blazer with the, I want the swoop. I want the
Listen, I debated a baby blue, tuxedo with ruffles. That was an option, but I think I got talked out of that. Let's just
you stay classy. I stay classy. So tell me about you and your journey. Where are you originally from, and when did you decide that you were going to be a director?
So I was born and raised in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it's a small town with a pretty thriving and great art scene, and so. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do growing up, but I started in college. I started really considering the film industry and had an internship at a production company there. And I just fell in love with it and was just like, man, I realized that I had grown up. There wasn't a lot to do in Charlottesville for young folks. And I just watched a lot of movies with my friends. And oddly enough, several of my friends and I and people in our sort of circle moved out to Los Angeles. And so we had a community of people from Virginia out in LA, which I think really helped give me a base out there, and started making docs. And just the first documentary I worked on was called The King of Kong. And I don't know if you know that one, but it's about two guys going for the world record on Donkey Kong. And it's absurd and ridiculous, but it really showed the power of a good character story. And that became a cult hit and really blew up and people loved it because the characters in the movie themselves, they were very passionate about what we were filming. And so I just love telling character-based stories and that's what I've been doing for almost 20 years now.
And your films have been Oscar shortlisted, have been at film festivals all around the world. You have they've been on Showtime and Netflix and HBO Max and Starz. You have been putting out documentaries that have been distributed all over the place. And what I love about looking at your body of work is if it's, cult documentaries or Gleason, or if it's, film work that you have, or I hear you're doing a football documentary about, you have a various subject matter. You don't do just one type of documentary.
Yeah, correct. And people ask me that all the time. They say, what kind of documentaries do you do? I like true crime ones. I like this. And I say I just make character-based documentaries. I enjoy becoming an expert in these random little subcultures or topics, but finding good characters to lead us through that. So anything from 3D printing to teenage magicians to cults to any of it. It all works for me as long as there's good people.
I'm obsessed and I love it. I will literally go on a streaming platform and find the latest documentary. And now I got to go deep dive all of Clay Tweel's. I'm going to go find all of them. I'm going to deep dive them all. We can follow you.
It's a wild ride.
While we're talking, your name on Instagram is your Instagram name is your name. So everyone, the link is below, follow it below so you can stay up to date on this film. You talk about characters. Andy Kaufman is tops the cake of a character. What a character to deep dive. Much has been written and made about him, from movies to other series. People have talked about him, written books about him. What did you feel like as a filmmaker you can add to his mystique of who he is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the challenges that was I was confronting right when starting this project was, how do I get behind the narratives that had already been out about Andy? There's been lots of things, and so I really didn't know how I was going to do that. But in my first conversation with Andy's family, his brother and his sister, they told us that, you know, they felt like there wasn't something that really showed the full breadth of who their brother was, and something that was like a three-dimensional portrait of him. And when I asked them, well, what are the tools in the toolkit in order to make that happen? How can we do this? And then they presented these. They had these 84 hours of audio that Andy recorded over about 6 or 7 years. And he used to record phone conversations with his family, or just riding around the Staten Island ferry, testing out characters on people. And he would record these little bits of his life and his like inner monologues, ideas for new bits. So that to me was the key to be able to make a movie where you heard in his own voice, his own creative process, and get to know him in a way that maybe was like not the persona that he put out into the world, um, on TV and a lot of his specials.
Do you come up with the idea to do Andy Kaufman? Does someone else ask you to do the documentary? And then how do you get involvement from his family? Because I'm sure that people have asked them to be involved. So how do you build trust with them to be the person to tell the story?
Yeah, building trust is, I think, one of the most essential things in making documentaries with the participants in it, and with their families involved. And it's always a journey. It's always hard. So this project came to me. So Dwayne Johnson and $7, all those folks, David Letterman, and at Worldwide Pants, Ross Dinnerstein at Campfire, they were all already trying to like had this idea to make a doc about Andy Kaufman's wrestling career only. And then that's when I came on board, and then we talked to the family, and in talking to them, that's when they were like, well, can we broaden the scope of this? But yeah, the project was really started with Dwayne, and he loves Andy, and knew that Letterman was a big part of his public life. And, some of his more famous moments on TV were on Letterman's show. So it made sense to try to get in touch with him. And those guys really were the impetus of the idea. So I'm just feel grateful that, I was able to be included and brought onto the project. And I was able to talk to the family about how much I loved their brother's performance art and what it meant to me. And I think that's sort of where this trust building started.
You got that, everybody? Did you hear Clay? He just casually dropped that in there. He just said, well, this film came to me. Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson just said Clay's the one to do it, and then David Letterman said, "Let's just get this made." Clay, you better drop all the name. This is amazing. I mean, you have some team behind this film.
It's an amazing. I feel very grateful. It is a huge team. It's like, it's not normal in the documentary world to just come out of the gate with that kind of like producerial power behind you.
Well, when you watch this film, everybody, and you get a ticket to see it at Tribeca or wherever it's going to be distributed, because this film will have a life after this film, I'm sure. When you're going to see it, hear it in his own words, which has not been done before. Plus, you have animation that tells the story. You really have done a creative way to tell this story in a different way than just people talk.
Not animation, marionette puppets.
Puppets, that's what it is. Puppets.
Yeah.
Why was that a choice? My apologies. Why the puppets? And who did it?
So it was an amazing team there as well. So the puppets were because Andy had, I was watching a lot of archive of his performances, and he had puppets in his act quite a bit. And then when I was talking to his family, they talked about how he, had puppets in his basement when they were growing up, and his love of, like, his very first love of television show was Howdy Doody. And so I heard that, and then as I was listening to these audio tapes, Andy professed like how much he loved Fellini. Fellini was his favorite artist and filmmaker. And so I just thought, well, it'd be wild if we could blend these two worlds in a way of like have these marionette puppets in a world of like Fellini that is bringing some of these dreamlike sequences of Andy's thoughts to life. We had some custom puppets made and then brought it to the folks at Bob Baker. I don't know if you've ever heard of them out in Los Angeles. They're one of the most, preeminent puppeteering places, and it's 5 blocks from my house in Highland Park. And so they are like this magical place. I take my daughter there all the time, and so I was able to have them be the operators and sort of the backdrop for that world.
Well, shout out to them. If you Google them, you can see that they have this incredible theater and they do such amazing work out there. And I'm like a Muppet freak. So that's the coolest thing ever, that people have to check this out. So in this story, you have his words, you have the puppets. Do you tackle, I'm sure, the SNL years. I'm sure you tackle Taxi. I'm sure you tackled Jerry the King Lawler. I'm sure, which you do, David Letterman. You tackled Tony Clifton, which is so fascinating to me. What do we discover about him and his artistry that we may not know through all because he's a very mysterious guy.
He is, yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of the prism through which I approached a lot of these audio tapes, was like, how could I be revealing some of his method behind his creative process, and like revealing the person and the personal thoughts that he had behind the persona of all those characters you just mentioned. So, one of my favorite moments in the movie is the Tony Clifton scene. I loved Tony Clifton. I love those performances. But really hearing from Andy about how, like, where the soulfulness and perhaps some of the like want of love and sadness to some extent would come from behind a person like the Tony Clifton character, which would make him act that rude on stage. And so it's almost like hearing from a place of love where someone like that, who is so mean on his surface, was coming from, I think just adds greater depth to that character and that appreciation for what Andy built.
I'm so happy you made this documentary and give him his due for the genius that he was and the performance art that he does. I'm sure you've reached out to other people, and other people are such fans of his work. I hear you have quite the list of people that are coming to the documentary premiere tonight. What was it like when you reached out to people to give a quote? Are there people out there who feel they knew him and understood what he did and got to kind of vouch for him as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, there's lots of people that knew pieces of him, and that's sort of the overarching thought, I would say, Robert, of the film, is like, we all contain multitudes. You know what I mean? You let people in on different parts of your personality and who you are, and it's hard to get a totality for any of us, let alone Andy. And so, which might be the most like relatable thing about him. And yeah, reaching out to people and trying to see if they would be interested in seeing the movie or being a part of it. Like, everyone loved him, I think, connected with him because it wasn't just like the childlike wonder. He really did have a sweetness and a love about him that I think other artists in particular, appreciate a lot. And so I think it was, I don't know where this was, but I remember seeing somewhere that Lorne Michaels said, I knew Andy for 7 years and I've been talking about him for 40. So it's just like, he's somebody who is evergreen in terms of like an inspiration for artists.
Well, I feel that way. He was ahead of his time in many ways, and now many people are inspired by the work that he did. And that's a great quote, because 7 years of being with Lorne Michaels and we're still talking about him decades later. And I don't, there's lots of rumors about Andy. He may show up tonight at Tribeca. You never. This might be it.
I'm not going to go there per se. I will not subscribe to the conspiracy theories. But I think that the spirit of Andy will be there. I'll say this: when we were doing our interviews, there was like with throughout the process of the film, there was a couple times when just like weird things would happen, and like we'd be in the middle of an interview, and one time like a backdrop slipped, and like it just was hilarious, and we were like, this feels like Andy's here. Yep. I feel like his presence has been around us as we're making it. So that's felt really good.
So for you as a filmmaker, you take these interviews that you do with people and his words, and then you put it with clips and photos. How many hours and years have you worked Like, you must have seen every piece of footage that there is of Andy Kaufman.
Yes, I mean, certainly. We were working on this for 2.5 years, and so I mean, his career was actually quite short. It was cut short, and he was sort of only in the public eye for around, like 73 to 83, so about 10 years. And yeah, there was lots to watch, but it was also, that's what made it so fun. Like, it was a blast to make this. And so I'm hoping that people enjoy watching it as much as I did making it.
You're not only a director, but you're a producer and an editor as well. So did you have a hands-on approach to the way this film was edited?
I do, yeah. So my longtime friend and collaborator, Luis Lopez, was the lead editor on this. And I've known Luis for 20 years. We've like edited many things together. We've co-directed and edited stuff. Like, our relationship is super tight, which made it very easy to, you just have a shorthand with somebody like that. I still like to edit a little bit, but I would say most of this movie is Luis doing his thing, and Carla Rhoda, who also came on to help. She's amazing as well. So those two people, those two brains, I trust implicitly, and I didn't have to do a lot.
Well, while we have the award-winning documentary and filmmaker here, I have to ask you this question for all the aspiring filmmakers and artists out here. So, how is the hardest part of making a documentary to tell like, there is a story, you are telling a narrative, and you don't have the subject for this. You don't have Andy Kaufman here. You can't ask him. You can't sit him down in front of a green screen, and ask him about his career. So, how do you tell a story and create an arc without the subject in person?
Yeah. I mean, I think finding an ending is one of the hardest things in documentaries. And what I often do is try to look for things that are payoffs to things that are perhaps, you see a setup of something or an idea, and if it can come back maybe 2 or 3 times and have a good resolution, then you can start to see how different themes are arcing out in the story. For this one, it was a little bit easier because there is that finite ending of this person's life and sort of their career. So I tried very much so to see if there are ways to make this nonlinear and have a different trajectory. But for the most part, it just emotionally worked to be on the roller coaster of sort of the rise and fall, and how that mirrors the book that Andy was writing that he cared so much about in the film that we profile. So he had this book called The Huey Williams Story, which I didn't know about when I first started the project. And it has like a natural sort of 4-part structure, and that's mirrored in how we sort of layered Andy's life on top of it. But yeah, to again, to answer your question, like, it's really hard to know when and how to end a documentary. That is the toughest part. But it's also, for me, one of the more exciting things to sit down at the beginning of a project and outline, because the world is your oyster. It's all just digital clay to move around and try to sculpt something that makes sense.
Well, I'm excited when they put out the press release of all of the films that are coming to Tribeca. This was on the top of the list of things that I can't wait to see. So how can people around the country who are listening or watching us right now support this? They can't see it yet. So what can we do to get the word out? Or what
if posting about it, showing, putting up on social media the presence and desire to see it, I think really does help. All those metrics and things are tracked. We're premiering here in Tribeca this week, and I'm super excited about that. And then we're playing DC Docs down in Washington the week after. So those where you can see it in the immediate future, but really just, please, the hashtag Andy Kaufman is me, and we'll try to come to your city as best we can.
By the end of Tribeca, this film will have distribution and be somewhere soon. You watch, because this is perfect for the time we're living in right now. We need this documentary out here on a streaming platform or a network or somewhere. And I'm sure that's going to happen. Clay, listen, when The Rock calls you about my documentary, I have some notes. There's certain things that are off topic. I'll send you an email about them in advance.
I got you. We've already been talking about it.
I was trying to be humble about it, Clay. I knew. I'm so excited.
This is the opening scene, but yes.
Perfect. I'll give you the ending too. No, We're gonna be there. My family and friends are all out in New York and at Tribeca, and it's on their list. So if you're here for the screenings of it, make sure you get your tickets. Shout out to Tribeca. I know it's a big deal as a filmmaker to have your film premiere. When you heard about it, what was your reaction?
I mean, so excited. Also because like this is Andy's home turf. He grew up in Great Neck. He's still got some family and friends around, which is so exciting. He's got some of his old like childhood friends are coming in to the screening, and yeah, it's just like Andy to me is a very New York person, and to be here and premiering it at Tribeca is huge. It just feels like it fits, like it's right.
Well, congratulations, break legs tonight. We're excited for everyone to see this and check it out. And our show is your show. Anytime you have a new documentary to come chat about, please come by and swing by and say hey. And everybody, Andy Kaufman is me, comes to Tribeca and who knows where after this. And we'll be following Clay. All the links and information that you can follow are right below us. So if you're watching or listening to us, make sure you follow and click away. Congratulations. Have a great time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.